Now this week's parasha, really, it's a continuation of last week's parasha. At the end of last week's parasha, we learned that Abraham was tested with Akedah. Meaning to say that God came to him and said to him, take your son, your only son. He says, which son? He said, I have two. I have Yishmael and I have Yitzchak. He says, the one that you love. He said, I love both of them. Take Yitzchak and put him on the altar. He says, okay, what am I going to do? The biggest test, we spoke about it in the past. I won't go too deep into it. Obviously, it's one of the biggest tests in the whole entire world. We can't imagine. But Abraham goes through it with all the koach, wakes up early in the morning. He said he takes the donkeys, takes the chamorim, takes everything and goes on his way. Travels 3 days, gets there. And what happens over there, we heard already. We spoke about it in the past. Now, this week's parasha starts off as simultaneously what was going on with Sarai Emenu, with Yitzchak's mother. Now Yitzchak's mother, obviously she noticed that her husband and her son weren't around. But she wasn't concerned. But it starts off this parasha that she passed away. She passed away 127 years old. So the commentary asks, what caused that she passed away? Right after the Akedah. So there's Rashi writes on this, that the reason she passed away was she heard that her son was ready for slaughter, meaning he was tied up and he was nearly slaughtered. Right? So according to the simple understanding, what are we going to say? That she heard, she had a sensitive heart. She heard that her son went up into the altar, he was ready to get slaughtered, and he was nearly slaughtered, her heart couldn't take it, and she collapsed. And she fainted and she passed away. That's according to the simple interpretation. And we can see it kind of makes sense, because if you think about it, there's people in the world today, I have one friend, who his father unfortunately has a sensitive heart. So every little information he wants to keep from his father. Everything he can keep. Shalom Aleichem. Everything he keeps from father, keep his father. Right? Because he knows if I'm going to tell him something, chas v'shalom, it's not going to be healthy for him. So he keeps from him. Like for example, one time he told me, I'm dating a goya, but don't tell my mother. Okay, Baruch Hashem, we got him out of it. And then again he was dating a goya, but Baruch Hashem, we got him out of that one too. But we see that in this world, that ultimately, that there's people in the world that have this sensitive heart. But that's according to the simple understanding. Let's go a little bit deeper. Look into Rashi's words. What did he say? Nearly slaughtered. What does it mean nearly slaughtered? He wasn't slaughtered. So some interpret Rashi like this. So you know what it means nearly slaughtered? You know why Sarai Emenu passed away? Not because her heart was sensitive, because we know from the Midrashim, they tell us that Sarai Emenu was on a higher level in prophecy and in Kedusha than Avraham Avinu. So let me ask you a question. It makes sense to you? Avraham Avinu, he hears, a guy calls him, hello, brrring, he picks up the phone, hello, this is God calling. What's up, my brother? Go kick your son, and he's excited and he goes. But Sarai Emenu, no. For her, it's not enough. Come on. If she's on a higher level, how much more so she's going to want it to go? Says, you know why she was slaughtered? Because he was nearly slaughtered. Meaning to say, he wasn't slaughtered. What does it mean? What are you saying? My son's not good enough? He's not good enough to be a sacrifice? Arkidekach. Look where we're going. Up to that point. That's according to some interpretation. Now that's according to the two. Now we spoke about in the past, the Kabbalah and the Zohar talk about a whole different concept. Says that when Sarai Emenu, and we spoke about this, just going to reiterate for those who didn't hear. Sarai Emenu, when she wanted to have a kid, she was old, she wasn't able to have a kid, she prayed so hard for it, she wanted it so bad, that a part of her neshama went into the kid. And he lived with half a neshama, half a soul of his mother. Meaning to say, with a woman's soul. Now Chazal teach us that a man who has a woman's soul cannot have children in this world. Can't. He doesn't have the ability. He can't. So, what ended up happening was, Hashem tells Abraham, go take your son. Take him and go slaughter him. But Abraham could have said, wait a minute, you promised me a nation from him. You promised me a whole entire nation from him. He says, Afal Pichen. He didn't tell him. But what would have happened, let's just go in the hindsight, what would have happened if he didn't slaughter him? Then he would have said, no, you promised me from him, and argued on him and didn't go to the altar. And then what would have happened? He never would have been have children. According to the Zohar Kabbalah, Avraham Avinu was so into it, he actually made an incision in cut the trachea of Yitzchak, and actually he passed away. And his soul went up to Shamayim. And for 1 year, his body was taken up to the heavens and he was repaired, put a new soul in him of a man, and put him down into the world. Now there's a proof for this in the verse. I know it sounds a little bit far-fetched, but if you look in the pasuk of the Akedah, everywhere you see Yachdav, which basically means that Avraham and Yitzchak go together. Avraham and Yitzchak go together, and in the end, when Avraham comes back, it says Vayeshev Avraham. But where's Yitzchak? He didn't come back. And Avraham came back, but where's Yitzchak? He didn't come back. So from there, the Kabbalah and the Zohar want to learn that really he didn't come back. And what happened when he passed away? Sarai Emenu, the soul went back together into one, went up to Shamayim. Now what happened to that soul? We spoke about this in the past. Really, in that same day, who was born? Rivka, who's 3 years later going to become the wife of Yitzchak. 3 years later. Comes Rashi and the Pasuk that we're going to see in this week's Parasha, same thing. Where you learn about it, that when Yitzchak brings Rivka to the oil, there was 3 miracles that happened. 3 miracles that in Sarai Amenu's life that always happen. 1, That the candles were lit from week to week. That there was blessing. Rashi tells us this. There was blessing in the dough, and the clouds of the Shekhinah of God's presence were constantly over the tent. When she passed away, it stopped. When Yitzchak brought back Rivka, his new wife, everything started up again. We see from over there that really the Neshama came down into her. Now I say all of this to show you how great, first of all, how great the tzaddikim, how great the matriarchs and patriarchs are, and how much the Avodat Hashem was in their working of God, how much they wanted so bad to do God's will, fulfill God's will. And on top of that, to teach you that everything that God does has a purpose. But a step further, it says in this week's Parasha, how did it start? The years of Sarah's life. Why does it say the years? Comes Rashi and says, you know why it says the years? I'll tell you why it says the years. Commenting similarly on what was in the past. What was in the past? Said the pasuk, Avraham and Sarah ba'im b'yamim, which basically means they were coming with their days. Rashi over there says, literally, that they came with every single day of their life. No day of their life went wasted. Every single day was calculated for. They came and they used their life. They utilized every single minute of their life. They didn't let any minute go to waste. Any minute go to waste. And that's exactly what it's saying. When now that she passed away, God is reiterating that and letting us know how important this character trait is. Don't waste any time. Don't waste any time. Now, after this big test, Avraham Avinu comes back from slaughtering his son. That's the last and final test. Hashem said, I'm going to give you 10 tests. That was the 10th. Comes back, and his wife passed away. Now he has to go and eulogize her and bury her. She passed away. He comes back, and his wife's not there with him anymore. And where does he go? He goes to a place called Het. He goes straight to a place called Het. Now, how did he know where to go? It's just like this. Go back to last week's parasha, when we see after Avraham Avinu got the Brit Milah, when the angels came to him, he went to go and fetch them the finest food. He wanted to get them choicest meat. Says the Midrash, he ran after a calf, trying to get them the fresh meat. He ran after a calf, and the calf led him into a cave. And he ran, led him into a cave. He got into the cave, and he smelled Gan Eden. He smelled heaven. And over there, he saw the burial plots of Adam and Chava. And he said, wow, this is where I want to bury my wife. I know for sure right now this is where I want to bury my wife and where I want to be married. I want to be buried. Comes now, she passed away. He says, I know exactly where to go. Goes to Chet, goes to the people of Chet. He says, listen, I want to bury my dead over here. He said, you, to us like a God, go and bury, take it wherever you want, go and bury. Avraham says, no, I want to buy a piece of land to bury my dead. He said, no, it's not required, no problem, we'll let you. He says, no, I want to buy. And he knew exactly who to go to. We see that, what happened over there? He knew exactly where he wanted to go because of a chesed that he did. He did good to try and go do it for the angels, and he went and he was amel and he was working hard, toiling to get them the calf, and ultimately he found the burial place of where he wanted to bury himself, his wife, his son's wife, Yaakov, and Leah, and Esav's head. What happened over there? Esav was standing over there arguing about, this is my makom, and one of the grandchildren came and cut off his head, and his head rolled into the machpelah. So he also was buried over there, a part of him, right? How did he know that? Because he went to go get a choicest meat. And from here we learned that a person who thinks he's the one to do good for others, I'm going to go out of my way, I'm going to do good for another person. You think, you're doing it for him, right? Ultimately, you're doing it for yourself. I heard a beautiful story. I heard it around a few years ago. Now, when I was writing this class, I thought about this class, and I said, I heard a story one time from Rabbi Wallerstein, who just recently passed away, unfortunately, in blessed memory. And I said, I heard a story. There was a beautiful story that illustrates the point beautifully. I have to find this story. So I go and I start looking. Finally, I find a pamphlet printout of this story. I click it and I see 2019, this exact story. What parasha? Chayei Sarah. The exact parasha of this week. I said, wow. And on top of that, side point, it's actually my birthday parasha. Side note. Okay, well, beautiful story. I said, wow, look how much he loves what we're doing over here. And right away, he said, you know what, here, I'm going to show you a sign. It says a story like this. There was two friends, Mike and Barry. Two younger guys decided, we want to go on a trip to Alaska. Who wants to go on a trip to Alaska? I have no idea. Usually you go down towards Miami, Colombia, Mexico. These guys are a little bit majnoon. So yalla, we're going up to Alaska. They go up to Alaska, they get their Canada Goose, their moose knuckle, their whatever you can imagine. They got it strapped up and ready to go. They get over there, it's freezing cold, so we want to go on a snow hike. Beautiful night, they look out, they see a beautiful night, the skies look clear. They get out, they start hiking. They're going a little bit, they're excited. All of a sudden, the wind turns, and a snowstorm comes, trapping them. Now, if you've ever been in a snowstorm, in a serious snowstorm, it's impossible to move. You cannot. The amount of snow is coming down, they couldn't see. They were sitting over there, they couldn't move. Eventually, the friend Mike couldn't take the cold and collapsed. His friend Barry saw him collapse and quickly reacted. He said, oh, if I'm not going to go right now, because he's collapsed, he's passed out. His body temperature is going to drop. What happens when you sleep? Your body temperature drops 3 or 4 degrees. His body temperature is going to drop even further and he's going to get frostbite. He's going to die. Quickly jumps on him, starts rubbing his hands, his feet, his neck, everything you possibly imagine, just to keep him warm, keep him warm, keep him warm. He does this for about an hour and a half. Finally, the paramedics come. They take the guys, they rush them to the hospital. They put him in the thing, going flying to the Alaskan hospital. Who's the Alaskan hospital? Alaskan hospital, they get over there. They come into the ER. It was jam-packed. No, I'm kidding. It's Alaska. It's empty. They come, the 2 nurses. They say, oh, what happened over here? The guy, take him quickly. They take him to the room. His friend Mike is Barry. He's waiting in the hallway. He's waiting anxiously. He's pacing back and forth. They tell him, go to the snack machine. There's a snack machine. Leave me alone now. I'm waiting with my friend. Finally, the doctor comes out. Doctor, I have to know what's going on. He says, don't worry. He's stable. Unfortunately, we had to amputate a few fingers, but thank God he's alive. And the friend Barry sighs. Says, thank God I reacted quickly. Says, if I wouldn't have been over there, if I didn't jump on him to rub his hands, to rub his neck, to rub his feet, who knows what would have happened to him? God forbid he wouldn't be with us today. The doctor smiles at him. Says, the same way you saved his life, he also saved yours. The Dr. Barry looks at him and says, Shumash Nun, the guy was sleeping. What are you talking about? What saved my life? I was up, I was about, he was sleeping with disease. What are you talking about? He says, no, I'll tell you. You were trying to circulate his blood to keep his body warm, but while doing so, you're keeping your body warm. So while you think you were saving his life, you also internally were saving your life. You're right. In life, when we go to do something for another person, we want to go out of our way. We think, oh, really? I'm doing for him. He's not doing for me. I'm doing for him. But the reality is that when you do for another, ultimately what you're doing is doing for yourself. At the end, you're the one who benefits. And we see this from Abraham. We see this from Avisalam. We see this from Abraham. That what? He wanted to go get them the choicest meat. So he ran out of his way as much as possible to get for them. And while doing so, he finds this cave. And this cave is exactly where he wanted to bury his family. He knew this is the entrance to Gan Eden. He knew he was going to get buried over here. And it was first class ticket to Gan Eden, to heaven. Comes now after hearing his wife passes away. He goes to this place, Chet. He knows exactly what to ask for. He comes and says, let me speak to Ephron. So the guy who owns this piece of land by the Mahbilah, by the cave that I want to buy. Comes the guy, Ephron, says, oh, Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu this time was a famous guy. Famous guy. So he says, wow, Avraham Avinu comes to him and says, listen, I want to buy this piece of land over here. The cave. I want to buy it from you. Ephron tells him, for you, take it for free. Whatever you want, it's yours, it's mine. Rashi says, you cannot really trust what he said. You know why? Because really he didn't give him anything. He didn't say, here's the deed. He didn't say, here you go, here's the ownership. He said, I'm giving it to you. Yeah, I don't like as if I'm giving it to you. But he wasn't really giving it to him. And Avraham knew. Picture this. Shaquille O'Neal, okay, going down California, sees the brand new Aston Martin, says, you know what? I want to go buy this brand new Aston Martin. Pulls up to the dealership, everyone sees Shaquille O'Neal walk in. Wow, Shaquille O'Neal, they see this guy, 6'8", whatever, I don't know how tall he is, 7'3", who knows? The guy can't even walk in, he has to bend down to get to the door. Everyone notices him as soon as he walks into the dealership. The salesman says, no, we have to deal with him. The owner says, no, I'm going to take care of him. The owner goes straight, the owner gets to him, he says, don't worry, Shaq, I'm taking care of you. What do you need? I came over here for, you know how Shaq talks. So I came over here for an Aston Martin. I came over here to get the new model. So what does the owner tell him? Shaq, for you, for free. Says, you Shaq, Shaquille O'Neal, what are you crazy? For free. Shaq knew that if he's going to take the car for free, it's going to come with some type of contingency. Oh, I'm going to take the car for free, but later on you're going to call me for a favor about how I need to advertise your business, or I need to make a commercial for you, or something like that. So he said, I'm a smart guy. I already know it's going to be some favors attached to it, so I don't want it. Let me pay. So what happens all of a sudden? The guy turned into a sleazy car salesman. Okay, if you really want to pay $1.2 million. But between me and you, what is it? It's only $1.2 million. Now, really, the car's worth $500,000, and he was way overpriced. Shaquille O'Neal said, what's going on with you? And he walked out. Says, shh. Comes Avraham Avinu, comes to Ephron. After seeing Shaquille O'Neal, Avraham Avinu, he says, I'm going to give it to you free. Avraham says, I already know you're going to ask me some advertisement later on. I'm Avraham. Of course you want me to advertise for you. He says, no, I want to pay. Take the money from me. So says to him, okay, if you want to pay 400 shekel in exchangeable currency, what is it between me and you? Now Rashi, exchangeable currency, which means that it was accepted everywhere in the world. Rashi writes it wasn't small coins, it was large coins. Meaning it was the equivalent of 10 times more than the money than actually 400 shekel. And the value of the land was a quarter of that. And he's asking him for a way exaggerated price for the land. And what did Abraham do? Took out his checkbook, signed the check, told him, here you go. The cave is mine. You know why? He had to bury her, and he didn't want to sit down with this guy. He said, yeah, what's kesef at the end of the day? What's money? Gave him the money, signed it off, and he left. And he buried Sarah Imenu. And as we know, later on, what's it called? Later on, Yitzchak and Rivka, and of course Yaakov, Leah, like we said. Now what's interesting is Rashi writes on this, on Ephron's behavior. What did Ephron do? Ephron was talking a lot, right? He was saying, I'm going to give it to you for free. Like, he came down like a sleazy car salesman. He said, I'm going to give it to you for free, don't worry. You know, that you ever seen the infomercial on the TV? The guy said, you come in today, 20% off. He's already on the screen, he's going crazy. Come on today, first customer, 20% off. And at the bottom it says, not really 20% off, only for first time customers. You know, that whole little sentence at the bottom that nobody can ever read. Yeah, right? So he's saying a lot in the video, but at the bottom he's doing very, very little. You come into the store, I came for 20% off. Let me ask you, what's your date of birth? 2000. You just missed it. It was 2000 was the cutoff. I'm sorry. I'm 1999. You know what? You're right. I just changed the date. 1998. What happened over here? What happened? No one's getting 20% off, but that's how you get them in. You know, the guys who going. They had to. You know, I want you to understand that this is a real story. Okay. My dad one time when we were growing up, my dad did furniture stores. So every time we did a furniture store, when was it the busiest? So during the holidays, but it was even busier another time of the year. When you're closing on the store. So you put up a sign, going out of business sale. Bemet. The zone, Bemet. Going out of business sale. You want to know that in New York, it's illegal to call a store going out of business, and it's illegal to put up a sign going out of business if you're not going out of business? It's illegal. Archidekach. Look how much people misused it. They put up a sign going out of business. 10 years later, you see the guy still there. Are you going out of business, not going out of business? We're going and not going out of business. And Bemet. So we see that what was he doing? He was talking a lot, but doing very, very little. You know, it's a mashal like a guy, you see him, he comes to tefillah. Sometimes you come see guys pray. There's one guy, you see him in the corner, just sitting over there, kind of rocking back and forth, doing his thing. Another guy, you see him, he's dancing, he's like this, like this, like this, like this. Today I heard it in my call, Rav Boaz brought it down in one of a famous Chacham. He says, you know what that means? It means you're seeing him, he's doing a lot, but the kavanah is very little. Meaning to say, you see all these motions with the hands, you see all the show, all that sagar, but the reality is the intention is not really there. So this attribute of showing a lot but doing very little, it's not a favorable attribute. You know what's a favorable attribute? You know what's an attribute of successful people? Overachieving. What does it mean? Exceeding expectations. Says the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, the first chapter, 15th verse, Shammai says, make for yourself time, set time, fixed time to learn Torah. After that he says, say a little and do a lot, and greet every person with a smile on your face. This attribute of saying a little and doing a lot, this is a key attribute of being successful in life. All the successful people in the whole entire world, they know. They already know. You come to meet them for a business dealing, they don't talk too much. I'm going to go do this, I'm going to buy the property, I'm going to do advertising, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Talks very little. Why? Because he knows already. If I'm going to come and make the bar all the way up over here, and the reality is I hit over here, then you're going to be, even if it's very high, you're not going to be satisfied. You're not going to be satisfied. This attribute comes Rashi, Bartanura, and it says like this. As we learn, Baba Metzia brings down, who had this attribute? Avraham Avinu. When the three angels came to him, what did he say to them? Come, I'm going to give you a pot of lechem. I'm going to give you a small amount of bread. And then he tells his wife, 3 se'ah, which basically is the equivalent of 5 gallons of bread. You know what 5 gallons of bread is? I'm filling up this whole table over here with gigantic chalot. He brought out them gigantic chalot. Before that, the Midrash writes that he brought them out cheese, because they were sitting down, cheese was quick. Brought them out cheese. When they finished eating the cheese, he told them out some bread to wash and this. Brought them out lamb, chicken, everything you possibly imagine. So Avraham Avinu, what did he do? He said very, very little, and he did a lot. And this is the way of a person who's a tzaddik, a person who's a righteous person, a person who's successful. He says very little, but he does a lot. And this is a big point for us, because this is the key attribute to success. You want to live your life happily. Everything you do in life, if you talk too much, if you put on a show, then everyone's going to expect from you to be a certain type of way, and you're never going to meet it. I'll tell you guys a personal story. When I graduated college, I went to Baruch College, for people who don't know. I graduated college, and when I graduated college, just for the sake of the story, I was top of my class. I was in 2-3 honor societies, and I thought very highly of myself, right? So when I went out for the jobs, I graduated actually into the pandemic. Right into the thing where you 2020, that's when I graduated, right into the pandemic. But when I went out to the jobs, I was very confident. Every interview I would go into, I would come in with my head into Shamayim, like this, right? And one interview I remember, I walk into the place. I actually ended up getting this job. There was actually a guy who was in class with me, and as soon as I walked in, he was like, "Whoa, I can't believe you're here." He started talking about me non-stop, talking about how great I am and how this and how that. And I didn't even say anything. Now, I walked into the meeting with the boss. The boss is looking at me. He just heard this whole atzaga from the guy outside. He was ranting about how amazing I am. I had one class with him. I don't know why he thinks I'm so amazing, Bichlal. One class. I come into the thing. You can already imagine, you got the job. I don't have to say anything. I come to work. Now, I'm a person that works hard. But because of the expectations that were set on me from this guy, no matter what I did, it was never enough. You're not meeting your potential. Every week, I would get a call into the office on a Thursday. If I did 160 calls, if I did this, if I did that, it wouldn't make a difference what I did. If I was meeting every quarter, every bookmark that they asked me to meet, I'll get a call into the office every single week. Listen, you're not meeting your potential. You're not meeting your potential. Why? Because the bar was set really, really high. So even though I was outperforming every single person in the office, I was hitting higher numbers, I was doing it quicker, everything like that, it wouldn't make a difference. You know why? Because ultimately, he was looking at me and saying, I'm expecting from you this. But who said anything about me reaching over here? All I can do is this. He said, no, I'm expecting from you this. And because of that, you're underachieving. You're not meeting expectations, and therefore not satisfied. However, my coworker, I had one coworker, a very quiet guy. Came in, got the job. Came in, was very quiet, didn't say nothing. Did less than me, and everything he did, he got praise. Everything he did. He had 100 calls, I'll do 160. For me, 160 wasn't enough. For him, 100, wow, beautiful, so nice, so great, employee of the week, employee of the month. Douglas, I did 10 times more than him. What is it today? What? You know, come on. But yeah, man, me and him have a big, no, stop. Good guy. But at the end of the day, we see why? Because when I came in, the bar was set over here. And then all of a sudden, I was performing, let's say over here, but I wasn't meeting. Even though I was above everybody else, I wasn't meeting what was set for me. This character trait is so important. You want to be successful in your life? Say little, but do a lot. It's very, very important. You go into a shidduch date. All you guys get married soon. You go shidduchim date. You're sitting with a girl. Now you want to impress. There's one guy who wants to impress her. So he goes, you do shifuni ana, which basically means he does a little da'winim. He comes in, he pulls up in a Range Rover S550. Tells her, don't worry, I'm taking care of everything. The clothes, the this, the that. Then all of a sudden they get married. You guys like, they go shopping. She takes him to Bloomingdale's, to Louis Vuitton. He's sitting over there. He's like, no, maybe Kohl's, TJ Maxx, Primark. No, H&M's. She's looking over there. She's like, let's go. You told me you're taking me to Bloomingdale's, taking me to Saks Fifth, taking me to Louis, taking me to Gucci. Guy says, you don't need it. Shmi, now it's different. Then I was living at home with my mother. Now we have bills. Now I can take you to Gucci. Let's go, maybe H&M, Zara. Comes in, talks very high, sets the bar high. And he has to meet that. So what's the smart thing to do? Yeah. I know actually one guy that I know personally. At a young age, he became very wealthy. Very, very wealthy. I think like 18 years old. His name was Alex. And he was always driving around something crazy. But he was a multimillionaire at the age of, he invented some type of toy or something like that. Something crazy. So I know that when he would go on first dates, what would he do? He purposely bought a beat up Honda Civic. It's a real story. He bought up a beat up Honda Civic. Right? This guy was driving around like whatever, Lambo, Maseratis. But whenever you go on a first date, he'll pick the girl up in a car that was with dents. The whole place, the car smelled like I don't know what. The car was out of a salvage yard. Remember, the car was ready to go. It was dinging. The car was driving like this the whole way. Pick her up like this just to see what we were holding. Are you really going out for me because of money, or are you going out for me? And then after that, she said, if a woman would agree, I honestly don't. Listen, I honestly don't know a woman that would agree. It's very hard. Imagine now you got a guy coming outside. I don't care what he looks like. He pulls up in this hoopty. The car's barely running. He has to be outside of the car. He has to call it chaverim. He need a booster. He need a jumper. What kind of date is this? What kind of date are you taking me to? Well, Bemet takes her for a gumball. He don't take her out to the restaurant. He takes her to the mall. I don't think you have to eat this. A gumball. He buys a little gumball from the machine. He says, you have any samplers? Bemet, what kind of girls continue? But the girl that would continue, the next day she got picked up with Maserati. Right? Why? Sometimes in life it's better that we say a little, but we do a lot. Because we exceed expectations. And that's the way we live our life in a satisfied way. It says the Magen Avot. So, and we learn this attribute from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from Hashem. Hashem said with the Mitzrim, Dan Anochi, which basically means I'll judge them. And the word Dan is two letters. Daled Nun Sofit. It's a 2-letter word. And after that, he gave him 10 makot. And he did everything you possibly imagine. And then after that, he continued and took us out of Egypt, opened the sea of reeds, gave us the clouds of glory, gave us the man, gave us everything you possibly imagine. From 2 little tiny words. Says that Kadosh Baruch Hu says very little but does a lot. How do you know that? You show me a pasuk in the Torah that says that Hashem will provide for you the way He provides for you every single day. You show me a pasuk that says that Hashem will sustain you the way He sustains you that He does every single day. To the level that He does. Where does it say it? Where does it say that? But Hashem still provides for every single one of us. Every single one of us in this room, Hashem takes care of us and provides for us. Where did it say He's going to do that? Hashem never said to what extent He's going to do it. You know why? Hashem says, I say very, very little, but I over-exceed. I do very, very much. And us, we have to try and mimic these attributes, mimic these godly attributes. So what we should do in our life, we should try and say very little and do that. Hashem will all be zocheh to bring Mashiach tzedakah b'rav yemenu.